Hey everyone! Welcome back to Her Secret Diaries. If you're new here, this is a space where we share the stories people are too afraid to tell out loud. The kind that stay buried in group chats, whispered between friends, or hidden behind forced smiles at family gatherings. And today's story is one of betrayal, silence, and a kind of heartbreak that doesn't come from strangers, but from the people who are supposed to love you the most. This one is titled, "They Didn't Invite Me to My Brother's Wedding. I Paid for the Venue." I still don't fully understand how things got to this point. I've replayed it in my head so many times, trying to figure out where I went wrong, what I missed, or if there was some moment I should have seen coming. Some sign that I wasn't as important to my family as I thought I was. But every time I go back, everything feels normal. Until suddenly, it's not. My brother and I used to be close, not the kind of close where we talked every single day or shared every detail of our lives, but close enough. We grew up in the same house, survived the same strict parents, the same financial struggles, the same expectations. We had each other's backs when it mattered, at least. I thought we did. He's younger than me by 3 years. Growing up, I always felt a sense of responsibility toward him. I was the one who helped him with homework, covered for him when he got into trouble, gave him advice about relationships, even when I barely understood my own. When he got his first job, I was the one who helped him prepare for the interview. When he got his first heartbreak, I was the one who sat with him while he cried. And when he told me he had met the one, I was genuinely happy for him. Her name was Aisha. At first, I really liked her. She was polite, soft-spoken, respectful, the kind of girl our parents instantly approved of. She knew how to say the right things, how to make a good impression, and honestly, I wanted to like her. I wanted to believe she was good for my brother. But there were small things, tiny, almost invisible things, that started to bother me. Nothing obvious. Nothing I could point to and say, "This is wrong." Just a feeling. Like the way she would subtly exclude me from conversations, or how she would interrupt me mid-sentence. But never anyone else. Or the way my brother started changing. Slowly. Almost unnoticeably, he stopped calling as much, stopped asking for my opinion, stopped sharing things with me at first. I told myself it was normal. People change when they fall in love. They build new priorities, new lives. I didn't want to be that sister, the jealous one, the controlling one. So I stayed quiet. I gave them space. I supported them. When they got engaged, I was one of the first people he told. I remember the excitement in his voice, and I remember how proud I felt. My little brother getting married. It felt like such a big moment. Not just for him, but for our whole family. And without even thinking, I told him I wanted to help, just emotionally, but financially too, because the truth is, our family wasn't exactly wealthy. Weddings are expensive. Everyone knows that, and I had been working for years, saving money, building some stability for myself. So when I offered to contribute, it came from a place of love, a place of wanting to make his day special. At first, he refused. He said it wasn't my responsibility, but I insisted. I told him, "You're my brother. Let me do this for you." Eventually, he agreed, and that's how I ended up paying for the venue. It wasn't a small amount. It was actually one of the biggest expenses of the entire wedding. A beautiful place. Elegant, spacious. Exactly what they wanted. I remember the day we went to see it. Aisha was there too. She smiled, thanked me, told me how much it meant to her. Everything felt right. Everything felt normal for a while. But then, things started to shift. Not dramatically, just subtly. I noticed I wasn't being included in wedding planning discussions anymore. Group chats would go quiet. When I asked questions, decisions would be made without me. Even though I was contributing so much at first, I brushed it off. I thought maybe they were just busy. Maybe I was overthinking. But deep down, something didn't feel right. I tried to talk to my brother about it. Nothing confrontational. Just as simple. "Hey, I feel a little out of the loop. Is everything okay?" He laughed it off, said I was overthinking, said everything was fine, and again, I believed him, because he's my brother. Why wouldn't I? Then one day, I found out the wedding date had been finalized, not from him, not from my parents, but from a distant cousin, who casually mentioned it in a conversation. I remember the exact moment, the way my heart dropped, the confusion, the disbelief. I thought, maybe they just forgot to tell me. Maybe it slipped through the cracks. So, I called him, and that's when everything changed. His tone was different. Cold, distant, like I was talking to someone I didn't recognize. I asked him about the date. He hesitated, and then he said something that I will never forget. He said, "Oh yeah, about that." And there was a pause, a long, heavy pause. Before he continued, "We decided to keep the wedding small." Small. That word echoed in my head. I didn't understand. What did small mean? I asked him, and then he said it so casually that it almost felt unreal. "You're not invited." I thought I misheard him. I actually laughed, because it didn't make sense. But he didn't laugh. He just stayed, quiet, and that's when it hit me. He was serious. I asked him why, over and over again. Why? What did I do? What happened? And his answer. It wasn't even really an answer. He said it was complicated. He said Aisha felt uncomfortable. He said there had been tension. Tension? What tension? I had never argued with her, never disrespected her, never even raised my voice. But suddenly, I was the problem. Suddenly, I was the reason I couldn't attend my own brother's wedding. I felt numb, completely numb. I reminded him, gently at first, that I had paid for the venue, not in a way to hold it over him, but because I genuinely thought, maybe he hadn't fully thought this through. Maybe he would realize how hurtful this was. But he didn't. He just said, "We'll figure something out." Figure something out. Like I was some distant acquaintance. Not his sister. I hung up the phone. And I just sat there, staring at nothing, trying to process what had just happened. I didn't cry. Not at first. It was like my brain refused to accept it, like it was protecting me from the reality of the situation. But eventually, it sank in, and when it did, it broke something inside me. I kept asking myself, how do you exclude your own sister from one of the most important days of your life? How do you take her support, her money, her love, and then decide she doesn't belong there? I didn't tell anyone at first. I was embarrassed, ashamed. I didn't want people to know that my own family had pushed me out like this. But eventually, my parents found out, and their reaction, that was another shock. They didn't defend me. They didn't question him. They didn't say, "This is wrong." Instead, they told me to understand, to be mature, to not create drama. They said it was his wedding, his decision, and I should respect it. Respect it. I felt like I was losing my mind. Was I the only one who saw how wrong this was? Was I really the problem? For days, I went back and forth. Part of me wanted to fight, to demand answers, to refuse to let this happen. But another part of me, the part that was tired, hurt, and emotionally drained, just wanted to disappear. The wedding day came and I wasn't there. I didn't see my brother get married. I didn't hear his vows. I didn't witness one of the biggest moments of his life. But I did see the photos. Of course I did. Thought they were everywhere. Social media, family group chats, friends sharing pictures, smiling faces, happy moments, a perfect wedding at the venue I paid for, and I wasn't in a single frame, not one. It felt like I had been erased, like I never existed. After that, something changed in me, not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly. Permanently. I stopped reaching out, stopped trying to fix things, stopped begging for a place in people's lives who clearly didn't want me there. My brother didn't. contact me for weeks, and when he finally did, it wasn't an apology, it wasn't an explanation. It was a casual message, like nothing had happened, like everything was normal. And that's when I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. He chose this. He chose to exclude me. He chose to hurt me. And everyone else chose to accept it. I wish I could say I got closure, that we sat down, talked it out, fixed everything. But real life doesn't always work like that. Sometimes there's no resolution, no satisfying ending, just distance, just silence. Just the slow process of letting go. I still think about it sometimes, not with anger, but with a kind of quiet sadness, because it wasn't just about a wedding, it was about what that moment represented, where I stood in his life, where I didn't, and maybe the hardest part is realizing that no matter how much you give, no matter how much you love someone, it doesn't guarantee they'll choose you. So if you're listening to this, and you've ever felt excluded, replaced, or pushed aside by the people you thought would always be there, you're not alone, and it doesn't mean you're not enough. Sometimes, it just means they made a choice, and now, you have to make yours. Hey everyone! Welcome back to Her Secret Diaries. If you're still here after that story, then you already know this isn't just about a wedding, it's about what happens after. Because people think the hardest part is the moment you're excluded. The shock, the betrayal, the heartbreak. But honestly, the hardest part is what comes next. It's waking up the next day and realizing life just goes on for everyone else for you. Something has changed forever. After the wedding, I expected things to feel different. I just didn't know how different at first. There was silence, not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind, the kind that sits in your chest and makes everything feel a little harder, a little emptier. Family group chats went back to normal like nothing had happened. Pictures were still being shared, jokes were still being made, plans were still being discussed, and I was still in those chats. Technically, but it felt like I wasn't really there. No one mentioned the wedding to me directly. No one acknowledged the fact that I hadn't been invited. It was like there was this unspoken agreement that if we didn't talk about it, then it didn't exist. And for a while, I played along. I reacted to messages, sent the occasional reply, pretended everything was fine because confronting it felt exhausting. And honestly, a part of me was still hoping someone would say something. My brother, my parents, anyone, just one message, one acknowledgement, one I'm sorry, but it never came. Weeks turned into months, and the distance grew. Not just physically, but emotionally. I stopped sharing things about my life, stopped updating them, stopped reaching out, and what hurt the most was realizing how easy it was for them to let me fade into the background. No one chased me. No one asked why I was quiet. No one noticed. Or maybe they did, and just didn't care enough to ask. That realization, it changes you. It forces you to see people for who they really are, not who you believed them to be. I started replaying everything, every memory, every interaction, trying to figure out, had I always been this replaceable? Or was this something new? Because it didn't feel sudden anymore. It felt like something that had been building, slowly, quietly, until it finally revealed itself. I remembered all the small moments I had ignored, the times I was left out of conversations, the times my opinions were brushed aside, the times I felt like an outsider. In my own family, I used to think those things were insignificant. Now, they felt like clues, like pieces of a puzzle I had refused to put together, and the picture they formed wasn't one I wanted to see. I wasn't as important to them as I thought I was, and that's a painful truth to accept. But at the same time, it's also a freeing one, because once you see it, you stop trying so hard to prove your worth. You stop overextending yourself for people who wouldn't do the same for you. You stop begging for a seat at a table that was never meant for you. And slowly, you start building your own. That didn't happen overnight. Healing never does. There were days I felt strong, like I had finally accepted everything, like I was ready to move on. And then there were days where something small would trigger me, a photo, a memory, a random thought, and suddenly, I was right back there, hurt, confused, questioning everything. Grief isn't linear, especially when it's not about losing someone physically, but emotionally, because in a way, I lost my brother. Not completely. He's still alive, still out there living his life, but the version of him I knew, the relationship we had, that's gone, and I had to learn how to grieve that. One of the hardest parts was letting go of the idea that things would go back to how they used to be, because for a long time, I held on to that hope, that one day he would realize what he did, that he would come back, apologize, fix things, and we would be okay again. But hope can be dangerous when it keeps you stuck, waiting for something that may never happen. So I made a decision, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. I stopped waiting. I stopped expecting. I stopped hoping for an apology that might never come. And instead, I started focusing on myself, on my own life, my own happiness, my own peace. I invested more time into my work, into friendships that actually felt mutual, into people who showed up for me without needing to be asked. And slowly, I started to feel like myself again. Not the same person I was before, but a stronger version, a more aware version, someone who understood her worth without needing validation from others. That doesn't mean I don't still feel the pain. I do. Sometimes it hits unexpectedly, like when I hear someone talk about their close relationship with their siblings. Or when I see families celebrating together effortlessly. There's a part of me that still wonders, why couldn't that be us? But I don't let that question consume me anymore, because I've learned something important. Closure doesn't always come from other people. Sometimes it's something you have to give yourself, by accepting what happened, by acknowledging the pain, and by choosing to move forward anyway. As for my brother, we still talk. Occasionally. Surface level conversations. Birthdays. Holidays. Nothing deep, nothing real. And maybe that's just how it's going to be. Maybe this is the new version of our relationship, distant, polite, limited, and while that used to make me sad, now I've made peace with it, because not every relationship is meant to last in the same way forever. Some people grow closer, some grow apart, and some show you exactly who they are when it matters most. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that love should never feel one-sided, support should never feel unappreciated, and family should never make you feel like you don't belong. But if they do, you have every right to step back, to protect your peace, to choose yourself, even if it hurts, especially if it hurts. So if you're listening to this right now, and you've been holding on to a relationship that keeps breaking you, ask yourself this: are you staying because it's healthy? Or because you're hoping it will become what it used to be? Because sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is let go of the version of people you created in your mind, and accept the reality of who they've shown you they are. And from there, you decide what you're willing to accept, and what you're not. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And if this story resonated with you in any way, don't forget to subscribe to Her Secret Diaries. Because sometimes, the stories we hear from others help us understand our own. And remind us that we're not alone.